Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone to today's Mental Health Ambassadors first training. This is the Mental Health Matters training, and it's going to be conducted by Dr. Angela Stowe, Director of Student Counseling. But before we get to that, we wanted to do a little brief overview of what Mental Health Ambassadors is so that everyone knows exactly what you're studying and looking to be participating in. So the goals of the Mental Health Ambassadors program are to enhance mental health knowledge among students, develop peer-to-peer mental health educational resources, and then be able to share these resources throughout campus, on and off campus. And we've created a lot of different mechanisms for doing that, particularly during the pandemic and us needing to go so virtual. So we want to have a lasting impact really on the climate here within our different programs that we're in, the different schools that we're participating in across campus, and really beyond with our families and our friends and our futures. So that was one of the big goals that we started this. We are a peer-to-peer mental health program that we launched back in fall of 2019. It's crazy to believe that it's been a year now. This was originally developed as an Honors College Faculty Fellows Initiative that I submitted to the Honors College and partnered with Dr. Angela Stowe with Student Counseling Services again, and Juhi Agarwal, who at the time was an Honors College student and president of Active Minds. And so as you can see here, the first picture is us at our induction ceremony. We had a wonderful ceremony where everybody got their certificates. So it'll be so lovely if we can do that in the spring with you guys. And then the bottom picture is us when we got our t-shirts. And so these, we had a kind of a competition to come up with a logo. And as you can see, we have a great logo on there of a flower, and underneath it, it says Mental Health Ambassadors. And it's truly a partnership with the Honors College and Student Counseling Services and Public Health. And through that, we really help to promote mental health awareness and resiliency across campus through a variety of mechanisms, and we'll talk about those. So what do we do? Everything, and we'll talk about this, but really the goals are to get trained. And once you're trained, you all to be able to propose, develop, and implement a mental health promotion campaign across campus. And in order to do that, you really need to have a solid foundation for your training. And that's what we're launching today for our 4-part series of trainings through Student Counseling Services. But you'll develop these mental health campaigns, and they have to focus on one of 3 areas, which are mental health awareness, resiliency, or self-care. And it can have a combination, but it really needs to have a central focus on one of those 3. As you might have seen, we have really launched a nice social media presence, particularly through Instagram, but also through Twitter and Facebook, and do lots of presentations online and in person. Today we had one on healthy and unhealthy relationships that a team developed, and then Lavanya, one of our mental health ambassadors, presented for us. And so we're really thankful for her for that. There goes my dog, sorry. But we also do podcasts that we're launching this fall, and be excited to share that. And we have a YouTube channel where we post all of our recordings there. And so we are looking forward to you seeing those. And we have a self-care newsletter as well. Really, so our vision is, as I said in the beginning, we just really want to have a positive impact on the climate, mental health climate on campus, really on campus and off campus, but meaning for the students. And you know, it really goes beyond just our students. It helps faculty, it helps administrators, it helps staff if we're doing it with students and from within. And so hopefully by doing so, we'll be able to reduce stigma and get students the supports that they need, and at the varying levels. I am trying to advance my slides. So here's a variety of examples of things that we've done: social media, presentations, and events. So they have the whole gamut here. In social media, we have certain days of the week that focus on certain areas. And then we do presentations at a variety of times, and these are listed. We have wonderful partnership with the artists and residents, and they do Monday presentations for us at 2:30, and really on different forms of art and how that can support your mental health. And here is one of our events that we did before spring break in 2020, and it was a wonderful event for the self-care group. And here's some examples of our social media initiatives where we talked about doing guided meditation, self-care Sunday. Sundays we've really focused on self-care, and that's shined through nicely throughout the entire year. And here, one of the other things that we've done is when we have presentations by, like here, student counseling services, then we can create highlights of what they share and make posts for that. So we've enjoyed being able to do that. And here's some examples of our presentation initiatives, a number of these with mental health and the arts. And so these have been really great ones that we've enjoyed doing. And here are examples of our events. And so I wanted to get to the components of, so now you know a little bit about who we are, what we could be, and there's lots of opportunities for growth. And that's the exciting part of there being a whole new set of you. I will share with you that there were 134 of you registered for the training, which is an astounding number. And you need to register for each session. So you don't just register for that today's session. Make sure you register for each one because they have a different registration link for each one. But what is required is that you have today's session, Mental Health Matters by Dr. Stowe, and then we will have QPR training, and that will be led by Consuelo Click and her team with Student Counseling Services, and then the active listening and motivational interviewing that Dr. Stowe will lead, and we are also requiring along with that Cognito, and we will talk about what that is. And then Micah from Student Wellness will lead our mental health presentation, design, and development. So we're excited about that. So you are required to participate in all 4 of these, and then you will propose an initiative. And I would talk a little bit about that. But these, again, are the dates for the trainings, and these have been widely posted for our trainings. Again, you have to complete all 4 of these trainings, not 3, not 2, not 1, but all 4 trainings need to be completed. And you must submit a mental health promotion team-based campaign proposal by November 22nd. So be thinking about it. You know, I would imagine through these 134 people, we can help you get connected with some people if you are not already connected with those who are attending trainings. And then you would be asked to continue to conduct whatever you're doing in the spring and the summer. So it's a full academic year commitment. All right, I'm gonna say one final thing, and this is expectations for trainings. And these are expectations for all of us. So during the Zoom world, and me as being a professor, I'm starting to learn a little bit of Zoom behaviors and also kind of etiquette and expectations. So what I'm gonna say is what is requirement for the training, and I have essentially assigned people to different sections to keep track of. And just so you know, even though you may be registered for today and it shows that you came in, it does show for how long you're here, just so you know that, and really, I guess so you know for your classes, it does indicate for how long you're there. So you need to attend for the entire session. You need to show your video for the full session and fully participate in the entire session. So what does that mean? That means not driving while you're participating, not being at work, and not doing any, additional activities like emailing or letting the dog out or, doing anything. Treat it as if you were in the big room that we would be in Heritage Hall, and all needing to be there and present for that meeting. And so just really wanting to put the ground rules down for that and the expectations. I'm very thrilled that Mental Health Ambassadors has become what it has, but it has because those who have been mental health ambassadors have been committed to it and adhere to really good guidelines and have a heart of gold. You know, they're all angels in my heart, and I deeply adore each and every one of them. And so, you know, we are inviting you to be part of a wonderful family of mental health ambassadors, but we do request that you know, really honor the creed that we live by. And so with that, before I introduce Dr. Stowe, I would like to ask, we have the next slide where I list our leadership team and our staff counselor, as well as Dr. Stowe. So those of you who are here, if you can go in the order that's listed here, maybe, so just to make it systematic. So Destiny.
Hi everyone, my name's Destiny Cravens and I'm super excited that you're all interested in becoming mental health ambassadors. I can't wait to work with you throughout the semester and school year, and thank you all so much for joining. I am one of the student co-leads along with Sarah Avery.
Hey guys, I'm Sarah Avery, so I'm the other co-lead. I work with Destiny. We're both really excited to go ahead and get the ball rolling on this school year and start getting y'all trained and getting y'all inducted and everything like that. And we're really looking forward to seeing what y'all, you know, what y'all are thinking about and what y'all have planned.
Thank you. I think Hannah had class, if I'm not mistaken. So Hannah Smid is our social media lead, and so she reviews all of the social media posts along with me that are posted prior to them, and there's a number of social media teams. And then Madeline Cook is our presentations lead. I believe maybe Madeline is in
class, yes.
Okay. I know Dua's here, so our events lead, Dua.
Hey guys, I'm Duha. I'm the events lead this coming semester. Because of everything that's going on, I'm probably going to be partnering with Madeline a lot, but you'll see my face hopefully on the Zoom, so I'm excited to meet all of you guys.
Awesome, thank you. So we have outreach co-leads, Lavanya.
Hey guys, my name's Lavanya. So I am an outreach lead this year, and I will be working with y'all as well as trying to reach out to minority associations mainly for this semester so that we can get a wide range of ethnicities as ambassadors. So thank you.
Thank you, Lavanya. Allie McMillan here. I think she wasn't able to come. And Jamelia. Okay, so we have two more, and I really want to have Herb Wilkerson, our staff counseling advisor. Really thrilled to have him. If he could introduce himself quick as well.
Yes, my name is Herbert Wilkerson, or Herb. I go by either one. My pronouns are he, him, and his, and I am the advisor. I also work as a therapist in student counseling services.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so we are ready for Dr. Stowe to be able to share her slides, and I will be monitoring the chat, Dr. Stowe, and we'll look at that, and we will be kind of each of us having our section of your groups to be looking at. So thank you again for this, and welcome again to Dr. Angela Stowe, Director of Student Counseling Services and co-founder of Mental Health Ambassadors. You may be muted.
I was muted. Good afternoon, everybody. It is just so very exciting to be with you, and I just could not feel more joy and appreciation to be with a group of students that's committed to promoting mental health on our campus. I think that's been a real gift of this group, to know how many students at UAB really do not just care about mental health, but are taking active steps to make a difference and changing the culture. And I really believe the mental health ambassadors have done that just in the 1 year that they've been around, especially during COVID, when at a time that we really had to change direction quickly. They were on it and were able to just not skip a beat in providing services to keep students connected. It's such a critical time. So I'm really excited about a new group and the new ideas and the new energy and the reach that we'll be able to have together. So as we get started, I have a slide up on the screen. We're going to do some interactive things. You know, I've thought a lot about how in the world to do a Zoom presentation with over 100 students on a Friday afternoon. So we are going to make this interactive. So please make sure you are engaged. We're going to do some breakout rooms to get in some smaller groups, just like we would if we were in person, to kind of have some more one-on-one and small group conversations. But then we're also going to do some polls, and that's what this particular site or app will do. So if you can, on your phone is probably the easiest, but if you're on a laptop, you could switch screens and go to srs.campuslabs.com or download the Campus Labs Respond app. Once you get there, it's going to ask you for your name, and you can put whatever you want. You don't have to put your real name. You can put your name, or you can put Mickey Mouse or whatever you might want to call yourself today. And then the Connect ID 15181. It might be helpful, Dr. Landsey, I don't know if you are able to maybe put that information in the chat, the Connect ID in particular. I'll be putting this slide up again when we get to a poll so that everybody has it, but I'm going to take just a second and see if folks have had a chance to get that to work. Anybody having any problems? And I cannot see the chat room. So if anybody, the ID, so you'll get to a place that says waiting, like it'll be waiting for next question. Like, so you can't do, once you enter the Connect ID, then you'll be waiting until I make the question live.
So a number of people are saying the ID is not working for them.
When you say that, okay, can you say a little bit more about how you know it's not working? Like what are you getting?
You don't put the number sign in front of it.
No, you don't put a pound. You just put 15181. Yeah, great. Thank you for that clarification.
And it looks like that once you've done it.
Waiting for question. That's right. Thank you, Melissa. Waiting for question is what it's going to say. All right.
Yeah, I think the app is not working, but if you go to the website, it is.
Okay, great. Thanks for those tips. You never know until you get on a Friday afternoon.
And you don't have to put your name. I think you already said that, but
yeah, you don't have to put your name. You can if you want. Like that won't show up. All the polls that we do are anonymous. Like it's not going to show up. I'm not even sure why they have you put your name, but they do. All right, so we'll circle back to this, but I do want to just have everybody set up, and we'll do some polls here in just a second. All right, so this is the foundation kind of course to launch you into the training for the mental health ambassadors. And I think really in the thinking about the course is just really just grounding you in mental health concepts, really the bigger picture. And so what we're going to do today is I'm going to give you a brief overview of counseling services and the UAB Cares initiatives, because I want you to know what we have available and about UAB Cares. And then we're going to talk a little bit about what we know about college students during COVID-19 on a national as well as a UAB level. We'll spend some time looking at signs and symptoms that people experience during times of anxiety, stress, and fear, and kind of start thinking about what you may be experiencing, what other people may be experiencing that could be very normal and expected during times of high stress. Then we're going to focus on some strategies that are really kind of resiliency strategies to support mental health and well-being, and then end on self-care. And so, I just want to point that we're really organizing this today to align with the mission of the mental health ambassadors, which is to promote messages around awareness, resiliency, and self-care. And that's really how we want to package this information, because those are three really important parts of mental health. So student counseling services, this is our team, and this was taken, before COVID, back in January, when we could all be together in a cozy space. And we are all still together working, but we are providing remote services, and counseling appointments are available to any enrolled student. They are free. It's free for enrolled students. Services are confidential. Our hours are Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. And students can web book appointments through their patient portal just by going to our website, logging in, and then scheduling an initial consultation. If somebody already has a counselor in our department, then the best way to communicate about rescheduling or getting started back again, or connecting with them, is sending them a message through the patient portal. We do also want to make sure students know about 24/7 support with the National Crisis Text Line, the National Suicide Prevention Hotline, and then since COVID, there's been an emotional support helpline that's not necessarily crisis support, but just if you're needing to talk about anxiety or stress, this is a free 1-800 number that you can access for crisis support. We have some pretty fabulous resources online for students, and I know a lot of you may be experiencing some Zoom fatigue and some screen fatigue and some online fatigue. But in the event that you're not, I want to tell you about a couple of things that can support your mental health and others. Our TAL app is a great app that can be done through self-help, or you can work with one of our counselors as kind of a coach to help you with some of the things in TAL. But it really is therapy online, and it's based on therapy concepts to work with things related to stress, anxiety, depression, resiliency. Healthy relationships, substance use is even part of that. So lots of different ways that you can learn mindfulness techniques and some really good strategies to support your well-being. Our Cognito platform that Dr. Lanzi referred to a few times is a platform that is also online, and it's an interactive simulation-based way to learn about how to have a conversation with somebody that you're worried about. So that's why we really want you all to participate in this, is because as a mental health ambassador, you're going to be seen as a leader on campus and someone who knows about mental health and can support mental health. And so being prepared to have conversations around mental health in a way that is really supportive and connects people with resources. Cognito takes about 30 to 40 minutes to go through the platform, and you can go to our website, and it gives all the, it links you to the login information, and you can check that out and complete that. And then other things that we have to keep you connected is certainly information about the mental health ambassadors. You can go there to see a little bit more about what's going on, and we keep their calendar active on our website as well if you need to just see what events are coming up every week that they have. Herbert, that you just met, does a podcast, and so that'll be starting hopefully in the next week or so. We've had some technical difficulties, but we're ready to get those out there. And then we're on social media as well. So please follow us on Instagram and Facebook. And then we have quite a bit on YouTube as well of some videos we've recorded in the past. The UAB Cares Initiative is UAB Suicide Prevention Initiative, and this has been in the works for over 2 years when Dr. Watts, our president, Dr. Benoit, our provost, and Dr. John Jones, the vice president of student affairs, said we want UAB to have a coordinated collaborative, and comprehensive approach to suicide prevention. And so they appointed a group of faculty, staff, and students to be a task force and we developed recommendations that we presented to the president and his cabinet about what we need to be doing as a university to prevent suicide and to promote mental health and well-being. They were so receptive of the recommendations that they, at that point, made a decision to expand the charge to be enterprise-wide. So it wasn't just about suicide prevention for students, but now it's about suicide prevention for everybody at UAB, including employees, so that no matter who you are, there are resources. So we launched a wonderful website this summer that I want to make sure you know about. And if you ever need access to resources for yourself or in knowing how to help someone else, then this is the go-to spot that has put them all in one place. And so I encourage you to visit that site and be familiar with it. It's also a place in the Learn More tab that you can scroll to the very bottom and get our toolbox, and there are some things that you can download and use to promote suicide prevention in the UAB Cares logo. There's a signature line logo that you can use. There's posters you can download. There's backgrounds that you can put up on your screen so that you can promote the UAB Cares message. So we're really proud. Our university has invested not just our time and commitment, but quite a bit of money in this initiative. So I'm super proud to be part of UAB. So I want to make sure y'all knew about those resources. We are going to try these breakout rooms. So I'm going to break y'all out into groups of about probably 5. And if you will, introduce yourself. And I am totally not seeing breakout rooms down here, although they were there. There they are. I want you to introduce yourself and then just tell each other why you're here. And we're going to take about 5 minutes to do this, and then I'll hop y'all back. Here we go to the great room. And here we go. Y'all ready? Yeah. Introduce yourself and why you want to be a mental health ambassador or why you're here, and go. And you'll have to click that you want to go to your room.
Hi, sorry, I had to unmute myself through my settings and then it exited me out.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah. Let's see. You so you've been here. You're not new to the presentation, right? So you knew we were going into breakout rooms. Okay. Okay.
Yes,
well,
it just brought me out.
That is so weird. Well, if you're okay with it, then I will just pop you into a room if that's all right.
All right, that's fine.
Great. Let's see if I can figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Here you go. I hope y'all had enough time, or I hope you didn't have too much time. That's one thing that's different about Zoom. I can't gauge how folks are doing with their conversation. So hopefully that went all right. Thank y'all for taking a minute to connect with each other. I think that's really important. Zoom makes that a little bit harder. All right, so we are going to jump right back in. And there we go. All right, so we're going to start with mental health awareness and just a little bit about what we know. So back in the spring, in April, not long after COVID had really kind of been around for a few weeks, Active Minds, which is a mental health, it's a national mental health, student mental health organization, and we have a super active chapter here at UAB. So if you're interested in getting involved, I know they would love to have you check out what they do. But nationally, they conducted a survey of college students just to gauge how COVID had impacted folks. And this is one of the pieces of information. There's a whole lot more online if you want to see more details about it. We just didn't have the time today to dig deeper, but I don't think it's any surprise probably to y'all that 91% of the people that responded said that they were experiencing stress or anxiety, followed by 80% high percentage of folks with disappointment and sadness. And certainly in April, you know, just things like graduation and the end of the semester and having to move out and change of summer plans, like so many things were impacted that we know grief was a big part of people's experience and continues to be. This summer, later this summer, the Center for Disease Control came out with a report about mental health of everyone, but it really was pointed out and really noted that people ages 18 to 24, which includes really our traditional college age population and the majority of students that attend UAB, that over 25% of them had reported seriously considering suicide in June. And this was up quite a bit from prior to COVID. And so it really does bring attention to that statistic. 25% said they also had increased use of substances in order to cope with the pandemic. And then I think the other thing that another study noted that isn't in this particular study is that those rates are even higher for people who are in more vulnerable populations. So thinking about our LGBTQ populations, definitely thinking of people of color, our Black individuals, students or people with disabilities, veterans, all of the more vulnerable populations are even having higher rates. And so we're really wanting to pay attention to that and be responsive. In addition, I really want to share some information about UAB, and this is hot off, you know, the press, I guess, really not press, but really new information. Dr. Lanzi and I, along with Dr. Schwiebert and a really fabulous research team, have been looking at a study to look at COVID, race, and the impact on the mental health of students and postdoctoral fellows. Our first piece of it was a survey that we did campus-wide. Maybe some of you all participated on it. And we had over 1,500 people respond this summer, 660 of which were undergraduates. And I want to give you just a picture of some of the results that we found. We're still working on getting those, you know, in a way that we're going to present. We're actually still analyzing them. There's so much information. One of the questions we asked is how much has COVID specifically impacted your academic success? And we had 74%, so almost 3/4 of the students indicate that there had been a very negative to some negative impact on their academic success. The events that they said during COVID that had really affected their mental health, and again, this survey was launched this summer, so we're talking June and July is really probably the time frame that people were considering the most. The top event that students indicated this summer was the killings of Black African Americans that occurred over the course of several months, actually, with several deaths. Then isolation due to social distancing. And then associated with the killings of Blacks and African Americans was the response of our culture and communities with protests and activism that resulted. And then back to some academic concerns, difficulty converting to online classes and the challenges with that. Lack of space to do work, because, you know, a lot of you and students had to move home to a very different environment. So making that adjustment, and that's the next impact that people said was really hard, is moving home to a stressful environment. Then we moved to financial impact, which is definitely something we're aware has impacted really all of our culture, but our students in particular, a change in or loss in income, a change in future career options, a change or loss in job, and then loss of participating in a significant life event. And so we know over the course of the past several months of COVID and having to be in quarantine or isolation, that people have not been able to participate in graduation or just attend class, or maybe there's been a wedding or a birthday or even funerals that families have experienced, and they haven't been able to participate in some of these really major life events that for many people have been planning their life for. So these are the top 10 events that students indicated had really impacted their mental health. Then we asked them to rate their stress level, and this was over the summer again. I would be very interested in knowing how people would respond to this right now. And I imagine we might see a little different now that we're back in the fall semester. The largest percentage of people indicated that there was some stress, but it was manageable, kind of right there in the middle. But you can also see that over 50% of folks said that they really have moderate to high stress. So that's a little snapshot. We've got a lot more information to come, and I'm sure folks connected to the mental health ambassadors will definitely have a front seat to more of what we're sharing. All right, so everyone get to your device or the Campus Labs page. Again, for those of you that may have just hopped on, you need to go to srs.campuslabs.com or download the Campus Labs Respond app. Put whatever name you want in there, and then enter the Connect ID 15181. Don't use the pound sign. All right, I'm going to stop sharing so I can hop over to the website and we can start this poll. The first question that I got to share my screen so you can see it. You should have just gotten the question on there. It says, how do you think UAB students are doing overall? So if you will select, I'm going to share my screen and then we can watch the results live. Again, these are anonymous, so we won't know who says what. We'll just get a sense of what everybody's opinions are about this. I'm going to try to adjust my screen. All right. How do you think UAB students are doing? Flourishing and thriving. Blazers are resilient and they are doing all right. I see my peers and classmates okay, but it's hard. Students seem to be struggling somewhat, or most students I know are not doing well. All right, looks like we have about maybe 70 or so. We still have a few more folks to respond. And as y'all are getting your responses in, I'm noticing that most people are falling kind of in the middle. There's an acknowledgement that things are difficult, but they aren't on the extreme. Some folks lean a little more towards doing okay, but it's hard. Some folks lean a little more towards the struggle. All right.
Can we get any, is it okay if anybody says anything about it, Dr. Stowe, or do we not have to have any time for discussion?
I would say we could, but it might take away from some of the other opportunities for engagement, but I'm open to that. The next question is about how I have another poll to ask. Do you want to make, what would you like to do?
I mean, whatever works for you. If you want to go to the next poll, I think that's great.
Yeah, maybe for this one, let's move and kind of see
Great.
what folks have to say next. We've still got some folks that haven't participated, so we really do want to encourage you to engage. We're going to go to the next question. Okay, here's the next question. How would you describe how you are doing this semester? All right. Great. Living my best life. Pretty well. Can't complain. Fine. Not great, but not bad. It's not easy, but I'm managing. And finally, I'm really struggling. And I'm going to put my headset on because I'm about to have a visitor.
Make sure you plug it in.
Yeah, exactly. I think I've got it plugged up right. Can y'all hear me okay?
Yep, sounds great.
All right, responses are coming in 50, 60, 70, I've got an 80 or so on. This one's a little more spread out than the perception of how your peers are doing, you know, really answering a little more about yourself. Again, as I'm observing, and Dr. Lanzi and Herbert or others, you might kind of chime in what you're observing, that folks are falling really kind of in the middle, similar to how you're perceiving others are doing, like, I'm doing okay, you know, I'm doing okay, or it is a little more on the struggle side, but I'm doing it, I'm figuring it out. There are some people, you know, really acknowledging that it's a struggle and a lot harder. And on the other side, there's some people that really things are going well. And I think this is so important to recognize that during this time, people's experience are all over the board. I think there is an assumption, and there is, you know, it is true, we're all going through some anxiety, fear, and uncertainty. And at the same time, while it's very hard for some, it's not for others. All right, I'm happy to pause for just a minute to get anybody's, you know, thoughts or reactions from this poll and these two questions that we just used to do a little check-in. Any thoughts or observations y'all want to share?
I would like some advice from the people that are doing great and living their best life.
Yeah, that's such a good point. And you know,
I second that.
yeah, well, and that is, that's a great point.
Yeah.
And one of the questions that we asked on our survey, and I'm going to give you a peek at one of the slides here in just a minute, was asking that, like, what are you doing to cope that's working well? What can we learn from people that are doing well, and do more of that, right? To help people know how to do more of that. That is such a great question. All right. I'm going to go back and share my screen again. Thank y'all for doing that poll. Okay. All right, am I back on? Here we go. All right, so the other piece of mental health awareness, that's a little bit about what we know about how students are doing, a little bit how you're doing. We're going to now talk about how to recognize signs and symptoms related to anxiety, stress, and fear, in particular during COVID. But I really just want to take a minute to acknowledge that while we're under this like umbrella and cloud of COVID, there's a lot of other things going on too that have also been kind of paralleling COVID that are affecting us as well. So yes, we have a global pandemic that none of us have lived through a global pandemic before, certainly not one to this scale. We also have had a number of events related to racial injustice, police brutality, and resulted in rioting and a lot of activism over the course of the months of COVID, you know, even including yesterday and last night with the response to Breonna Taylor's trial. So I think it's really important that that's part of our recognition of what people are also dealing with. We have an upcoming election and a very charged political climate right now that affects everybody, and that decisions that are being made right now and that we are leading up to being made during an election impact our lives on a very real way, in a very real way. That is impacting us. All of these things not only impact us personally, but I would imagine many of you had stories and experiences about how it's affecting your family relationships, your friend relationships, your ability to just navigate maybe some things in your life. In the meantime, while this pandemic, while these events around racial injustice and rioting and activism are happening, and this upcoming election, life also keeps moving. So things that would be happening anyway continue to happen. Babies are born, people become ill with just life illnesses that happen. Graduation happens, classes happen, work has to keep happening, life keeps going on, and things happen within the context of that too. So I think just it's really important for us to recognize that there are a lot of things going on right now, and there really isn't a way to isolate to one thing of, you know, well, here's what's causing my anxiety. It's so much going on, and it's pervasive in our culture, and it's pervasive in just our collective lives as well as our individual lives. So that's why we will say we really are living in times of anxiety, stress. Fear and uncertainty is just kind of the norm right now. And so I want to talk a little bit about what people may be experiencing that we can actually expect. I know a lot of times people have a tendency to be really hard on themselves, and you may have found yourself in this situation too. Like, it shouldn't be this hard for me. I should be able to be coping with this better. Other people seem to be doing better than me, but I really want to just normalize, and hopefully the next few slides will show you that whatever you're going through, whether it's emotional, physiological, behavioral, all types of things may very well just be a normal reaction to what is an extraordinary and abnormal kind of time in our history. So some common reactions you might have: shock and denial, like, I can't believe this, I can't wrap my head around this, like, I just, you know, this is not something that I ever prepared for. There's confusion, maybe a feeling of being lost or just not being able to get a grasp of what you need to do or know. Definitely anxiety, worry that accompanies that. Fear is very common right now, and there's fear around a lot of things, not just about COVID, but there may be fear about personal safety, or you're worried about someone else. Anger can certainly be a normal and common response, especially when we may have beliefs about someone's responsibility in certain things that affect us. And then depression. I certainly know that we have seen an increase in depression and depressive symptoms over time, maybe in people who've never experienced symptoms of depression before, but it's prolonged stress, and it's prolonged anxiety, it's prolonged situations of having to be flexible and regroup and adapt and not know, and our brains just got tired of that, and depression can happen. So I think this graphic is really key and important, that it's okay if it's hard to focus. It's okay if you're struggling to figure out what to do or how you feel. It's okay if you aren't handling things perfectly. There's nothing wrong with you. It's a difficult situation, and that's not your fault. So I think that's really important to tell yourself and to remember. So digging a little bit deeper, that fear and anxiety, that being anxious or worried about yourself or family members, personal safety concerns, depression and boredom. I'll add boredom to that. And you may just feel feelings of sadness or a low mood, and maybe telling yourself, like, I have no reason to feel this way, but there are reasons to feel this way. Extended periods of time at home also cause boredom, even if you're still busy. So you may have a ton to do, but there's still this feeling of boredom and loneliness because you're in the same place all the time. And then a lot of anger, frustration, and irritability. I know one thing that, you know, I say a lot is just our fuses are really short. Right now, our reserves are depleted, that things that normally wouldn't have gotten to us get to us quicker because we're just tired. Loss of that sense of freedom and ability to do what you need to do because of quarantine and isolation and restrictions that have been put on, the usual things that we have been used to doing before COVID. Definitely anger or resentment towards maybe people who've had to make decisions, or ways that you've been impacted, or maybe others' negligence that have increased likelihood of exposure to COVID. And then just the whole uncertainty about, we just really don't know how long we're going to be in this situation. There's likely it's going to be a while, and that uncertainty of the future that keeps us from being able to make plans and move forward. So we're having to kind of do that anyway, even though we're still uncertain. So this is what students had to say. Again, going back to the study that I referred to about COVID-19, race, and student and postdoctoral fellow mental health. The top 10 feelings that students reported experiencing: number one, uncertainty, followed by anxiety and frustration. And then here's something that might sound familiar to you: pressure to be productive, that I'm not doing enough or I need to do more. In the middle of the top 10, we had news fatigue and just overwhelmed with information, guilt that I'm not doing enough, feeling annoyed, discouraged, loneliness and being alone, and then confusion. So you may identify with some of these or maybe many of these, and this is what your fellow kind of peers reported this summer. And I want you to be kind of noting as we walk through this, because there's going to be a poll, how many of these things do you identify with? Would you say that you've experienced? Here's some physical and cognitive responses that are really common to fear, anxiety, and stress. Physically, nausea, feeling dizzy, thirst, fatigue, twitches, headaches, high blood pressure, a racing heart, visual issues, sweating, GI problems, muscle aches. So you may be having medical or physical symptoms, but maybe there's not a medical explanation for it. It really could be related to stress, anxiety, and fear. Our bodies absorb these experiences and can often have an impact on us. Also cognitively, things like confusion, nightmares, uncertainty, being easily startled, anger, and then maybe just feels like brain functioning, poor problem solving, problems with attention, disorientation of time. I don't know about y'all, but all the weeks run together. I have to like literally log the week that it is because it all seems to run together. I can't remember if I had, a conversation with you a week ago or if it was 4 weeks ago. Time just seems to be blurred. Maybe a slow learning speed. Do you notice that maybe you aren't learning as quickly in class as you're used to? That could be related to the Zoom platform. That could just be related to just our brains have been processing information very differently than prior to COVID. There's been constant change, constant adaptation to what's been going on, and we have no prior experience to this to really go back to. So our brain is creating new pathways and having to work really, really hard. So you just think about the neurologically what's going on. Distorted thinking, increased self-awareness. There are times that I can certainly say I just have a fog. There's a brain fog. Words don't come to my mind, and there are just some days that it seems a little harder to think than others. And then some emotional and behavioral responses. We've talked about a lot of these, such as fear and guilt, irritability, depression, a lot of grief. And grief and even loss of future things. Grief just doesn't have to be the death of a person in our lives. We can just, any kind of loss can be grief. Loss of our independence, loss of the ability to do something that we were looking forward to, and loss of people. Denial, anxiety, agitation, overwhelm, feeling emotional. Maybe your emotions feel like they're right at the surface, and at any moment in time you're going to cry, or any moment in time you're going to scream, just really feeling those emotions close to the surface. May also be the opposite of feeling numb, like I just don't feel anything. Like I have detached, I have compartmentalized, like I'm just not feeling it at all. And then helplessness and hopelessness as well. Behaviorally, things that folks may notice or observe in others is withdrawal. Maybe somebody that's been generally connected or engaged is withdrawing. Sometimes that's hard to notice, especially when we're so remote and we're not connecting with people in the same way physically that we were. Inability to rest, pacing, increased alcohol and drug consumption. Sometimes that's related to boredom. Sometimes that's related to coping. Increase or decrease in appetite, any changes in behaviors of life activities like appetite or libido or sleep, avoidance, aggressiveness, emotional outbursts. These are all things that can be very connected to fear, anxiety, and stress. So just paying attention to that. So I'm going to give you just a second. I'm going to hop back to the previous slide just to maybe do your own inventory of how many of these sound like something you've experienced, especially in the past few weeks that you might note. And then I want want to switch it over. You know, as we did our poll, there were a lot of students that said things are going okay. And so it's important for us to acknowledge, even though this is about mental health, that it's not all negative. There really have been some positive things. I've heard a lot of people use the term silver linings. And so some things that we have seen, like creativity and innovation. Early in COVID, lots of people sharing their music and their art and their storytelling and things like that over on social media. Some people have really liked being able to slow down. There just aren't as many competing activities or things to do, and so that change of pace is really welcome. Some stressors have been removed. Some students indicated last spring, I remember moving home and saying that really my stress is down because all those stressors that were there are now not there. For some people, increased time with family has really been a positive thing, and they've enjoyed that. Having opportunity to reflect and reprioritize or really focus on the things that matter the most to them are really important. Learning new things. I've talked to so many people who've learned how to cook or who've picked up an instrument that they hadn't before. And then helping others, that's been a real opportunity for a lot of folks to engage in making a difference and helping others, and that has had such a positive impact on their mental health and well-being. So think about, for you, are there things that have been really positive for you? And I think the key is it's really not either or. I want to emphasize you might have things on both lists, the negative impacts as well as positive impacts. We are complex human beings capable of feeling and experiencing many things at once. That can be overwhelming. That can also be confusing. But I do want to point out this graphic that I think is really helpful to recognize that, yes, we can feel grateful and we can be disappointed about things being canceled. Yes, we can enjoy extra time with loved ones and we can feel overwhelmed by their presence. Yes, we can be hopeful and we can feel like things are falling apart. Yes, we can be a source of hope and we can prioritize the need to fill our own cup. So I want you to take a quick count, particularly of the symptoms of stress, anxiety, and fear, and we are going to do another poll. So here's the slide just to help you get to where you need to go to do the poll. I will stop sharing and I will reshare, and we'll go to question 3 and start that. The question, what is impacting your mental health and well-being the most? I actually meant to ask this question earlier, but I'm going to ask it now too. So if you had to say, what is impacting your mental health and well-being the most? Is it academic stress, particularly your classes? Is it financial stress? Does it include family stress and responsibilities? Kind of your top one. Just in general, COVID is impacting my life just overall. Or is it the national issues around race and racial injustice and the upcoming elections, for example? So for you, what would you say is impacting you the most? As the responses are coming in right now, we're having an overwhelming number of you indicate that it's the academic stress and classes in particular. And I'll say this is really consistent what I've been seeing with folks coming to counseling and the things that are coming up, as well as some of the more higher need distress and crisis, is that it really is around academic stress. And a number of factors contributing to that. So this is consistent with a lot of what we're seeing. But the other things as well. And I imagine if y'all had the opportunity to check several things, you probably would, that a lot of these things may be impacting you as well. Anybody? Let's say we've got a few more folks that haven't had a chance to respond, if y'all would. I had over half though. Let's see, 78, it's close to, I don't know how many people we still have. All right, excellent. Thank y'all. All right. So the next one is actually I'm skipping that. On the list of the physical, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral responses. So when I asked you to kind of tally, how many do you endorse? Did you say like 1 to 5, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, or 16 or more symptoms? This is really, I mean, we've just got a few people responding, but definitely looks like across the board a real diverse range of how people are experiencing some of these things. And again, I just think it's such a great reminder of, you know, sometimes we're so in our experience that, and we feel like everyone else is going through the same thing, and we are all going through the same things, but we're all experiencing very differently for very different reasons. There's so many factors. We're really, you know, got most people kind of in the middle. The last three, 6 to 10, 11 to 15, and 16 plus definitely have the majority, but some folks having just a few. You're impacted, but just a few. Thank y'all. Any comments or thoughts as folks are dropping in their responses?
I just realized that you actually have to press submit. You can't just click it and it turns blue.
That's
So,
some good advice.
yeah, I don't know if anybody else, I'm probably the only one, but I have been paying attention. I just did not know to press submit at the bottom.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad you know that now, and there may be others who didn't realize that too. Thank you for pointing that out. Yes, please hit submit. So your response will join the rest.
I appreciate your vulnerability and
Yes.
doing that. That was very bold of you.
Thank you. Oh, I do appreciate that so much. We just all need space to be human right now, right? Just,
yeah,
it is for sure. All right. So yeah, again, everybody's really kind of all over the board, but I would imagine most people can endorse at least a few, at least on some days. You know, some days are easier and some days are harder. So this is a open response question, and this is going to produce a word cloud here in just a second. So I want you to pick one word to describe maybe the most prominent thing that you're feeling, noticing, experiencing right now. If you need more than one word, that is fine. Just put a period between the two words. Otherwise, it'll separate the two words that you have. But what is one word that you would describe? And I can let me enlarge this so y'all can see it better, and then I can keep regenerating it and it'll get everybody's in there. When the words are bigger, that usually means that there's more people. So stress is the biggest, that a lot of people endorsing that. Tired, I co-sign tired. Anxiety, overwhelm, exhaustion, loneliness, adaptation, opportunity, motivation, happy, numb, loss, heavy, irritability, twitching, circling, doubt, tense, nightmares, procrastination. I co-sign that one too.
Yeah.
Especially like cleaning my house and taking care of those adult kind of things that are no fun. Fine. Wait. Lack. I bet lack must go into something. Nostalgia. Interesting. Busy.
And remember, press done and then submit. So you have to step there.
Thank you. I need to remember all these instructions. All right. Thank y'all so much. I love these word clouds. I think they're just so just a visual representation. I'll give y'all just a minute to just look at what your classmates and peers are saying, and the things that you identify with or the things that you don't identify with, but just give you greater understanding of what people are going through. Awesome.
And are these, do these resonate with why kind of you're wanting to participate in mental health ambassadors? I see these as really big concerns, and then, you know, like what we can do about that. So I didn't know if anybody has anything that they wanted to say about that.
And you are welcome to use the chat as well. If you want to, we've got so many people. I know it's kind of hard to sometimes talk with 90 people in a room, but the chat is a great way if you have some comments that you want to share with the group. We would love to hear.
I would like to share. I have two very close friends that are clinically depressed, anxiety, and this COVID situation has made it so much worse for them. And so I know how important it is to that is kind of why I joined this, also for myself as well. I know the importance of spreading information about mental health and getting those resources out there.
Thank you for sharing that. And I imagine there's several folks that are probably nodding their heads with some similar experiences. So thank you for putting yourself out there. All right, I'm gonna do one more. Yep, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh,
nope,
sorry.
I was just gonna say there's a lot of head nodding. I think there was someone else to reshare.
Oh, I wanted to share real quick, but this especially looking through the symptoms is I'm actually currently in quarantine because I have COVID-19. And that, and I was also recently diagnosed with bipolar disorder. So all of this kind of together, it definitely, even just the mild case that I have exacerbated by the stress and everything that's going on. And it definitely makes me wonder, because I have such a strong support system and I have a lot of people looking out for me, but there are people that don't, and there are people that are going through illness or going through these things that don't have a support system. And so it's really that's a big part of why I'm here.
You're absolutely right. Thank you for sharing that. Even for people who have all of the resources and support, is hard. And some days are really hard. So for those that don't, I think they're especially vulnerable. And so that's a great opportunity for mental health ambassadors to make an impact. I think that's a lot of the conversation of many students that are interested and that are currently mental health ambassadors, is how can I plug in and connect with those who may not have the resources. So thank you. Well, this is heavy, and I know that. And so sometimes by this point in the presentation, or in a presentation like this, I'm aware that people may be feeling the heavy. And so, I invite you to notice that in yourself. And that's part of mindfulness, is just noticing and recognizing without judgment that, you're feeling something right now. And I want to move us and shift us to talk a little bit about some tools and really some basic resiliency skills that I think are super important during COVID. And we're going to talk about 3 in particular. We're going to talk about communication, compassion, and control. And what I want to kind of start with is just, when you know the source of something, then you can find the antidote to it, right? So what's the source of anxiety? Where does anxiety come from? Well, anxiety comes from a lack of information, and it also comes from a lack of control. So when we know that, this is where our anxiety can come from, there's some things that we can think about and do that may help with that and mitigate some of the anxiety. May not eliminate the anxiety, but it can help you understand it better and figure out what you need to do. So the first thing, and really I would say one of the number 1 things, and I would imagine I could get some head nods out of this one as well, is communication and information. When we're provided information that kind of fills that lack of information, then it really does help with our anxiety. So when you're in class and you have questions, you're not sure what's expected of you, you're not sure what's expected of assignment, or you haven't heard back about something, then there's a lot of anxiety. But once you get information, that can decrease. Part of what's really important right here is your strategy is to seek out clear, concrete, and trustworthy information. Information is everywhere. You are inundated with it, I imagine, every day. And that's one of the things that a lot of folks at UAB keep talking about, is like, how do we get information to students who are already overwhelmed and inundated with too much information? And so sorting through is really hard. What are your sources of information when you're talking about national events, you're talking about community issues that are happening? You're wanting updates on the election and our candidates. You're wanting to know, like, where do you go? Is where you're going a trustworthy source? Is it a clear source? Is it somewhere that is charging you up or informing you in a way that is bringing you clarity? It's also important to be able to ask questions and make time and provide time for asking questions. So sometimes we're afraid to ask questions, especially, I think, I'm going to go back to academics, because that really was the largest percentage of folks where your anxiety and stress is coming from. It can be intimidating to ask faculty questions. I think they're definitely in a position of authority. They're the ones that give you your grade. in a remote environment, you may not have had the same opportunity to build a relationship with a faculty member. And there just seems to be a hesitation in students to ask questions. But it's so important. If you don't ask your questions, you definitely won't get an answer. And even when you know there's not an answer, I think it's important to be able to ask your questions. The other thing that we're going to talk a little bit about is just what your consumption of news and social media is. I think while information really is an antidote to anxiety, it really, really is. Over information can be a source and trigger for anxiety. So if you are glued to the news, if you're looking for every update and you get dings on your phone for every piece of information and every update that's coming in, that may cause more anxiety than mitigate your anxiety. So you need to be monitoring that and thinking about what's a balance so that I can be informed and have what I need, but I'm not triggering or causing anxiety. Social media is, we could spend hours just talking about social media. So I just want to note, the impact of social media on our anxiety as well. And for you to take some time to reflect on what is your relationship with social media. There are benefits and there are challenges, and we know that. We know right now that social media may be like the best way that we can stay connected with some people, especially if you are in isolation, if you aren't able to get out and connect in many other ways. But I ask you, like, how do you feel when you're on social? Like, how do you feel? What do you notice? Pay attention to your body and your reactions. Are you are you constricted? Are you tight? Are you stressed? Are you feeling anxiety? Or do you feel like this was fun? This was an escape. I feel like I've gotten caught up on what people are doing in a good way. Think about why you use it. If you spend a lot of time on social, and now we have a way on our, phone to know how many hours we're spending online or on apps or on social, why are you using it? Are you bored? Is it an escape? Is it a distraction? Is it a connection? Is it information? Is it making sure you know what's going on, with certain events? So there's a lot of purposes and a lot of roles to it, and think about what it is for you. And is that helping you? Or is it causing more anxiety? And then when are you logging off? Like, take some breaks. When are you able to do that? Did I need to take a pause?
Well, I was just going to share with you that there is a whole lot of chatter going on in about social media in the chat room, and I think it has it's really resonating with the students, and it's I think what you're saying is they're feeling it as you say it, and I think a number of them have a lot of great points, and some of them have shared how they've even changed their social media behavior. So I just
thank you. Yeah, yes, I'm so glad that you drew our attention to that. So I'm looking through the chat right now.
So I don't know if any of you that have typed in there, if they wanted to say anything verbally.
Had to limit social media. Well, lots of yeses. Yes, me too, me too. Well, see, this is why conversations like this are so important. Watch The Social Media Dilemma on Netflix. I don't have Netflix. I know I need to get Netflix, but I have heard about that too. I can only go to Twitter for about 10 minutes before I get worked up. Deleted social media since start of quarantine. It's the best decision that I've made. Feel like I can use it as a medium to relieve stress. And a lot of people say that too. I want to avoid the news because it is negative and it does cause difficulty. You'll probably be amazed if you look at how much time you spend on social media. Time can just fly by. Feel like I can't be myself on social media. I've contemplated deleting it. Take week-long breaks, not just a day, but a full week. I think it's interesting if you take a break from it and notice how you feel when you aren't using it. What happens, even just a break from your phone, like what happens if you set your phone away for 2 hours and you don't let yourself use it? Do you notice, like, do you feel anxious because you can't get to it, or do you feel relief? Like, I think things like that is important. The pandemic made me hate social media Dopamine detox is on the move. That's an interesting observation. Yeah, social media really does take away your attention span to the point where you can't progress. It can be such a filler, a space filler, that you don't allow your brain just time to kind of be and be bored. I think that's a conversation I've had a lot. Like, people don't know how to be bored. And boredom is okay, because great ideas and great things come out of boredom, as well as rest and restoration. All right, y'all, this is awesome. I think this is a topic that we might look at pursuing further, like just social media health and how to navigate it. This may, y'all use this. This might be something that mental health ambassadors would use as a project. This is a real need, and I think a really relevant issue for students. All right, I'm gonna, for sake of time and y'all's Friday afternoons, I'm gonna hop back on and do a couple other things, okay? I love the discussion. Thank y'all.
Yeah, that's awesome.
If we can keep the chat, we might kind of take some time to look at that. Thank you. All right, so the other thing with anxiety is lack of control. When we can't control things and things are out of our control, our anxiety can really ramp up. And I imagine a lot of you, because humans identify with this, not just specific people. So I want you to look at this image, and I want you to draw your own. If you have a piece of paper in front of you, or you have a way you can on your phone make a list or something, I want you to think about your own list of what you can control and what you can control, and think about where your energy is going right now. My hunch is you need to give yourself a break and cut yourself some slack, that there's probably a whole lot of things in your life that are outside of your control that you're feeling really responsible for, or you're feeling like you really have to address and you really have to handle, and that there's just probably some of these things that you don't have a lot of control over. There are a lot of things that we do have control over, and I will say at any given point in time, even when you think every bit of control has been taken away, there is something you can control. I'm going to give a silly story. This was right after COVID started, and I was in the transition myself of working remotely and figuring out what my kids, I've got 2 kids, and what they were going to do, and how we were going to, like, how long was this going to last? And I decided I needed to sharpen 200 colored pencils, and I did. For I don't know how long, I sharpened every pencil as sharp as they could, and then I organized them into colors, and I saw this beautiful rainbow of colored pencils, and I colored a picture. And I felt like this is something I can control, and I can make something pretty. And it really did help. And it's a silly example, and it's a lighthearted example, but it was something I could control, and it was something that gave me some satisfaction in the moment, in that here and now, and it allowed me to kind of have a little bit of space. So there's always something you can control, even when it feels like it doesn't. So take a minute, and I want you to make your own little diagram. And for this one, I'm going to put us in breakout rooms, and I would really love for y'all to just have a little conversation in your group about both of these things: communication and information with news and social media, and as well as kind of this thing about control. And if one of those things that we just talked about in this diagram that you're working on, if that resonates with you, share that with your group. All right. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna see if I can do this again. I think you're gonna go in the same room that you were in. Okay, and so hopefully this will work, and I'll see y'all in a minute. We'll take about 3 or 4 minutes for y'all to chat with each other, okay? Are y'all able to see how to hop over to your breakout room? Hopefully that's working okay. Hey, Kalani.
Hello.
Welcome back, folks, as you are making your way back. Did y'all have enough time for everybody to share? Did you run out of time? Thumbs up, thumbs down? I have no idea. It's enough to check in with each other. Yeah, kind of get a little bit of discussion. Okay, excellent. Okay. Oh, we're still getting folks coming back. All right. Okay. Hope y'all had some good conversation. I'm going to hop right back in and talk about the third thing in addition to communication and control. Compassion. Here's the message. Be kind. We need kindness right now. Just that human to human connection. We are all in this together because we're all going through it globally as a pandemic. As well as just as UAB community in Birmingham as a nation, there's just we are all in a very unique time. We need kindness. I really want to emphasize just making space for feelings and emotions, and we're going to talk specifically about self-compassion. And I think self-compassion is so important. And my hunch is that many of you would probably say, you know, it's a lot easier to be kind to others than it is to myself. Our students, and during a stressful time, I know you all tend to be very hard on yourselves. You know, UAB has very competitive, smart, talented, goal-oriented students that are going to change the world. And those are folks that are high achievers and have high expectations of themselves. And so it's easy to be critical and judgmental and get irritated or angry at yourself. And I want you to just, when you're feeling that and you're noticing that, I want you to just pause and non-judgmentally just notice that that's what you're doing and try to understand where your reactions are coming from, because we really want to think about self-compassion. And I want to give you some information, and really, if this is something that you want to learn more about, then I encourage you to check into Kristen Neff. Kristen Neff has done a lot of research and a lot of work with self-compassion, and this quote on her website is, "With self-compassion, we give ourselves the same kindness and care we'd give to a good friend." I imagine most everybody on this call, if you had a friend in need reach out to you, you would jump right on it to help. That's why you want to be a mental health ambassador. You want to help others and support others' mental health. And there's a lot of reasons why you want to do that, but you want to help others. Are you able to support yourself in the same way that you're willing to support others? Dr. Neff has a great TED Talk. She actually has a lot of TED Talks, but a lot of talks on YouTube, but she has a TED Talk that really kind of launched her, called The Space Between Self-Esteem and Self-Compassion. Her website is selfcompassion.org, and her practice of self-compassion, she really boils down to 3 steps, and there's 3 steps that you can do every day to practice self-compassion, to really recognize just the humanity of you and your behaviors and your feelings and your actions, and be able to do some behaviors that can really nurture self-compassion. So we're going to do one of those today. I'm not going to have you go into breakout rooms. This is going to be your own personal reflection time, and so I encourage you to just kind of take a minute to look away. You might close your eyes and just kind of reflect on what I'm about to share with you about treating yourself like a good friend. All right, so first I just want everybody to take a really deep breath in through your nose. Hold for a minute, second really, and breathe out through your mouth. Empty your lungs. Breathe out to the point you're just relaxing your body, all right? I want you to think about times when a close friend feels really bad about him or herself and is really struggling in some way, how would you respond to your friend in this situation, especially when you're at your best? Please write down or think about what you typically do, what you say, and note the tone that you usually talk to your friends. Now, think about times when you feel bad about yourself or are struggling, maybe today. How do you typically respond to yourself in these situations? Please write down what you typically do. And think about, what do you typically do? What do you say? And note the tone in which you talk to yourself. Okay. Did you notice a difference? If so, ask yourself why. What factors or fears come into play that lead you to treat yourself and others so differently? Think about how you might change things if you responded to yourself in the same way you typically respond to a close friend when you're suffering. Why not treating yourself like a good friend and see what happens? So I wanted you to just take a minute to reflect on that, and you may have some comments in the chat that we would welcome you to share. But I think this is something I really challenge you to consider, and paying attention to how you treat yourself and some things that you do. On her website, she has 6 exercises and activities that you can do to cultivate self-compassion. She also has some recorded mindfulness meditations that you can listen to cultivate self-compassion. So I hope this was a good opportunity to kind of take an inventory of yourself and how you think and treat yourself. So communication, control, compassion, and now we're going to talk about self-care. Self-care is that third category: awareness, resiliency, and self-care. And I'm going to give you kind of the quick and dirty rundown about that. Be vigilant about your own self-care. I think sometimes self-care is a word we use a whole lot, and sometimes when you use a word that much, it gets watered down or kind of lost in translation. So I'm going to just kind of hit it hard right now for a minute. Self-care is something that you've got to embed throughout your day. We're in a time in our history and in our lives right now that self-care can't be reserved for after 5 o'clock and on weekends, right? Self-care is something that you need to be doing right now. And I'm going to give you 4 check boxes to say, like, am I paying attention to my own self-care, and take an inventory about how things are going in these areas. The first is set a routine. Do you have a rhythm that you can predictably move throughout your day? When you have a rhythm like that, that your mind and your body know is somewhat predictable, and this doesn't have to be a minute by minute schedule. Some days are a minute by minute schedule, but you're definitely going to lower your anxiety. You're going to increase your sense of well-being because your body isn't having and your brain isn't having to adapt constantly to what's going to happen or what you need to do. A rhythm and a routine can help you then manage when things do come your way that are out of your control or unpredictable. And include breaks and boundaries. So are you stepping away for lunch? Are you stepping away to stretch? Do you have a hard stop at the end of your day where you're not looking at your screen anymore? You're not studying anymore. You're able to really take a break. So a routine with breaks and boundaries. The second thing is connection. Especially during this time of COVID, loneliness and isolation is one of the top things that we are noticing in just people as an impact on our mental health and well-being. And even when we connect on Zoom and we connect by phone, it's still not the same as that person-to-person connection, but it is a connection. So connecting to yourself and others, reaching out when you need to connect and asking for that, checking on other people. So if you're noticing that someone is not connecting, are you checking in on them? Are you making sure people are okay? Because we're not running into people and bumping into people in class or around town or wherever, like we usually do. So we can't do those impromptu check-ins. We have to do it a little more intentionally. So being sure to check in, to reach out, to reach in. And then, are those connections in your life healthy and helpful? So when you do reach out, is it a connection that is helping you? Is it a connection that is reducing your anxiety and that is bringing you kind of support with your mental health and well-being? So connection. And then your daily activities, being mindful of your sleep, nutrition, and movement. These are things that we have to do every day. And are they helping you? So are you getting enough sleep to restore your brain and your body? Are you feeding your brain and your body with what you need to be nourished and to be able to stay alert and participate in your academics the way you need to? And are you moving every day to keep your body active and to keep your body able to move the way that it needs to, whether that's exercise or yoga or some kind of movement in your day? And then the fourth box is to do something. Do something that gets you outside of your day-to-day grind, that keeps you connected to maybe what people might call a soul or your spirit or your why in life. So creating, learning, serving, connecting in innovative ways, something that gets you to smile, something that gets you kind of connected with more your heart and soul. So those four things are important for every day. Thank you. Hey, I'm in the middle of a presentation. I need you to excuse me. The kids just got home from school. You can talk to Dad. So what our students are saying that they have done to cope, and this again is from our study, the top 10 things that they reported. Number one was exercise, movement, and walking. So that movement piece has been really important. Time outside and in nature has been important as well. And as this fall weather comes, I don't know about you, it's a really great time to be outside. Connecting to people, talking to friends and family. Here we have limiting news and social media that's helping folks. And then fun, play, dance, games. Again, kind of that category of doing something outside of your day-to-day grind. And here people indicated that they were participating in unhealthy eating as a way to cope, which is one of the more negative coping behaviors that came into our top 10. Creating something, setting a schedule or routine, and then positive interaction with social media as some ways that our students are coping. So I want you to now, in the last few minutes that we have together, I want you to do some of your own personal reflection. And we're going to do a couple of polls. We got a couple more questions on the poll after this before we wrap up. Do your own assessment. How are you? And as far as your plan of how you're doing and what you may need to think about in terms of communication and information. What about your exposure to news and your access to news that helps you get what you need but doesn't trigger your anxiety? What about social media? I got a lot of thoughts about that you had. And then when are you logging off? In the area of control, what's your focus? Are you finding yourself focused on things that are out of your control and causing a lot of anxiety because you can't control them and all the uncertainty? Are you focusing on things that are in your control? Are you creating some boundaries so that you have more control? In the area of compassion, what are you noticing about your feelings and sense of empathy or compassion towards others? What do you notice about self-compassion? And Kristen Neff's research shows us that if we practice self-compassion, we will see an impact on our mental health and well-being, and we will also see a difference in how we treat others. So it can have an overall impact. So how are you with that? And then in terms of self-care, as we ticked through kind of those four categories, what are areas that are really working for you in self-care and that you're noticing, well, this is really a good thing that I'm doing. I need to keep this up. And what are opportunities? And what I want to say with all of this, and this goes with the self-compassion, is to be gentle on yourself. We're going to all recognize things that we can do to be better. There always are things that we can do to be better. But the key is to not use that as a way to be critical of yourself, but instead to recognize you're doing the very best that you can in an absolutely extenuating time in our history. And so important to say, I'm doing all right. I'm doing the best that I can. And you know what? I'm going to try to do this tomorrow and see if I can take even better care of myself. So remembering to practice that self-compassion even as you're putting your plan together. Okay, so we are in the home stretch. I'm going to point y'all to your campus labs and share my screen. Here we go. All right. Which area that we just talked about, and we'll just kind of poll, like which area of self-care is hardest for you? And I'll take a minute to answer that. All right, it is after school time, so this is always a busy time in our house. What area? Sleep, nutrition, and movement. So those just daily activities, kind of getting what you need in there. Hardest, finding a routine, especially if you have a work schedule that varies, you have family things you have to do that varies, that can be hard too. So kind of acknowledging where the hardest areas are. And I would encourage you to say, when you're thinking about a plan of kind of how you need to consider your self-care, is maybe don't always focus on the parts that are hardest, but focus on the parts that you can do something about, right? And build on those, because they will impact your mental health and well-being. There's not a way to be 100% in all these areas, but there's a balance. And so trying to focus on kind of what you can do that does help you. All right. Good response there. And then the next question that I want y'all to share, and we're going to do another word cloud with this, is what is your #1 self-care strategy? Now, I'm going to note, if you have more than one word, like you say, biking and walking, you need to put a period between your words and don't put a space, because then it'll separate your words. So keep your words together by either put a period or dash between them, and that way we'll be able to see those together. So what is your #1 self-care strategy that works for you? Sleep. Hey, that's mine too. If only I could sleep more. All right, let me do this a little bit bigger so we can see it. All right, lots of different things. Going outside, exercising, smiling, connecting, socializing. Oh, 3 things: socializing, exercising, cooking, rest, nap, music, reading, discipline, family, art. This aimless, I imagine, goes with something. Dog, nap, anime, cleaning. I need you to come to my house. Netflix, TV, things that give you a chance to just give your brain a break, to step away, as well as to take care of your body and your brain, because it is what will get you through, and it is your most important asset, is your body, and taking care of your body and your brain. Awesome.
Music produced, yeah. The journaling and the meditation.
Great. Guitar, yeah.
Lots of forms of
patience. Awesome. All right. Thank y'all. Let me hop back. Any thoughts as I transition and we kind of move into the home stretch of things? And I can't see the chat, so Dr. Lindsay, is there anything in the chat to kind of draw attention to?
Yeah, it's blowing up as it's been doing. It's been nice, but a lot of it's just talking about how some have changed. Like they started, Madeline shared that she never meditated until college, but it's really helped her. Toral, I hope I'm saying it, cleaning is such a nice way to de-stress. And he likes to do the simple, going from the simplest thing as telling himself he's so smart, as to his monthly expensive Amazon splurge. But Sam also said cleaning, and my dog's actually in my lap right now sleeping. It's very relaxing. Oh, I love that too. That's nice doing it at home. Oh, watching her fish swim around is nice. So yeah, cleaning while blasting music is undefeated.
You know, I think for people that like to clean, like it really is that immediate gratification that you get of just seeing, and it's so sensory as well. It smells good, it looks beautiful, it's declutters, so clutter can also impact our mental health and well-being too. That if our space is cluttered, then our brains may feel cluttered too. So So yeah, these are great. So somebody asked the question early on, like, what are the people doing that is helping them to have, things go so well? I think this is a great way to share the things that do work for you.
Yeah.
So, I hope your takeaway today is, one, there's a lot of information that we went over, but I think the thing that is, the messages that I would say is, one, pay attention to how you are feeling, what you are thinking, how your body is experiencing things and your behaviors, and note those. Recognize that they're probably all very normal reactions to a very abnormal time in our history and in your life. And that there are some really accessible resiliency tools that you all have that you can do, and that you already do. Recognize you're already doing probably a lot of things that maybe you didn't realize were resiliency tools, and keep doing those and thinking about your self-care, and the self-care, how you can promote self-care to others. Take care of yourselves and each other. You're important, you matter, you're not alone. That's our UAB Cares kind of tagline, and it's so true. And I know that's why you all are here to be mental health ambassadors and share this message with others. And this is just kind of the starting point and foundation of that. So with that, that is all that I have for today. And we certainly can have more discussion or questions that folks may have afterwards.
Well, thank you, Dr. Stowe. That was amazing. That was a lot to get through. And it's amazing that you were able to keep an engaged crowd for, an hour and a half and really get some individualized information. So I think that's wonderful. We do have just a couple of minutes. If anybody wants to say anything, we're happy to hear, or questions you have about process or just reflections from today. Happy to engage for a couple of minutes before it ends. We certainly never want to keep you over, and I know many of you have other classes or labs or things to get to, and hopefully some relaxing for yourself after this ends. So does anybody have any questions or just reflections?
I had a question. I didn't mean to privately message you. I accidentally just said, yeah, I meant to send that in the group, but it was a question about if we can make one of these registered sessions, what do we do? Like, how can we make it up, or?
Yes. So the short answer is yes, you can. And what you need to do is to email me or one of the leads, and I could share my screen and show our emails again, and maybe you could screenshot it. And let me do that right now. I'm rlandsey@uab.edu, but I'll share the screen so you guys could screenshot. So this is our team, and Destiny and Sarah Avery, the student co-leads, can send you the specific information, but I can tell you what you need to do. So if you cannot come to the second one that is on QPR, then you need to have it. There are other offerings of QPR that currently are happening as part of Suicide Prevention Month. So those have been occurring. I think the next one, when do you recall when the next one is, Dr. Stowe?
We actually had the last one earlier this week. And so the next scheduled one is actually for the mental health ambassadors, and we'll just have to see how many we may need to try to plug into another one. We've got a couple of scheduled ones that have been requested, so we might be able to plug some folks into some of those.
Okay, so their scheduled one is October 9th, which is 2 weeks from today, to do the QPR training. So if any of you are not able to attend the QPR training October 9th, then you need to email me or Destiny right away to let us know so that we can look at the need for that. If you have done QPR training prior to now, you don't need to do it, a second time. It's always a wonderful refresher. So we would love it for you to come, because I've been to it, I don't know how many times, but each time I always get reminded of things and learn new ways and just benefit from it. So I encourage you to come even if you have not. But if you have had QPR training prior to the one we're offering on October 9th, then please send us their certificate so that we can have that. We can, you should have that if you attended it. And then the third one is on the active listening that Dr. Stowe is doing. And if you cannot do that one, then you will be doing the Cognito training, and there's a certificate that you get for that. And the Cognito, actually everybody's going to be required to do regardless. And so you can just go on UAB Cares website that Dr. Stowe talked about. So it's UAB Cares, and on there is Cognito, so you guys can see it right here, Cognito, that's how you spell it. So you could just go on the website, and then you would need to send us the certificate from completing that. If you cannot come to the November 13th presentation design development one, then you need to, we're going to record that one, and then you would need to watch the recording, and then you would submit a summary of it. Then we have a list of questions. So essentially, if you cannot come to one or more of these, you need to let us know so that we can get it documented in our system. And then we'll send you all the information, but that's specifically what you need to do. The November 13th one, you would really want to watch that as soon as possible after it, because November 22nd is when the proposals are due. So you guys should begin thinking about like what you would want to do, and just know it's an idea. You do not necessarily need to follow through and do this exactly everything the same, because you're going to improve upon it and you're going to learn information. But the goal is to come up with your idea and have it to be a measurable one that you can measure the impact of it, and something that you can do within that time frame.
Hey, Dr. Lindsay.
Yes.
Something from the chat, which I'm also in UHP, and a lot of my UHP friends are actually wanting to be mental health ambassadors. We have a 9-hour midterm on the 9th, and maybe if we have a big enough group, would we be able to do like another QPR?
Yes, I think that may be an option that we can look at doing a different day and time to offer a second one. We're really open to that.
Awesome.
So Dua, do you want to try and kind of get with your group? And
I have the group chat so that I can ask them and see who's interested, and I'll get you names hopefully soon.
And ideally finding a time that would work for everyone, okay, I think would be the thing, and Dr. Stowe might be able to work it out.
Will do. I'll get that as soon as possible.
And then we'll share that with others that may not be able to come on that October 9th. Any other questions programmatically or just about Dr. Stowe's presentation?
If we've already been QPR trained, do you want us to submit the certificate to one of you?
Yes. Yes. So you would email it to me, or you could email it to one of the two leads, who the email addresses are right here, to Sarah Avery or to Destiny. Any other questions?
Are the requirements just the meetings and the mental health promotion campaign?
Yeah, so to become an ambassador, but that's like then the fun begins, really. Then you get to do all the fun stuff. So in order to be eligible to submit a mental health campaign, you must come to the live sessions that we offer for these 4 on those dates, or do the alternate training that we have provided, and then submit in a team-based mental health campaign proposal. And the proposal has very specific questions that we will post. And so we don't want y'all submitting those before we go through our trainings, because we really want you to, go through our trainings and then have a thoughtful one based on the trainings and a group format. So we're not going to assign you to groups for this. That's something that you'll need to do on your own. But if you don't know other people, any of the other, 90 plus people who are here today, and I will say that there's like 30 plus people that have emailed us about getting, that they can't come. So I don't know, there's around 100-ish who are appearing to want to become mental health ambassadors. So my point is, if you do not know anyone though that is doing this, let us know. I'm sure we can help find you a group to get together with. And that happens. So it's not, it's quite all right. And sometimes I think it's good to just meet a new group regardless, to expand your friendship group. But the beautiful thing is you all have one common interest. You're all interested in mental health promotion, which is so needed and so clearly needed. And I wish Hannah could be here, because Hannah has done an amazing job as our social media lead and really building that platform. But it's clearly a need, as the chatter showed today.
So Dr. Lindsay, somebody has a question about how many people should there be in a group?
5-ish is a good round. Well, it's not a round number, but 5-ish is a good number. So 4 to 6-ish. 10 is too many. You get to where people aren't doing anything, and then they're just trying to kind of like be in the group and get credit for being a mental health ambassador, but not do anything. So you're going to want to have people in your group to where they have roles, and we'll talk to you guys about it. That's one of the main things that we're doing in the 4th session is, one, how to create a program and design, but also then how to manage it and make it work. And certainly we've learned a lot this past year. And so I'm getting with the mental health ambassadors and kind of doing a lessons learned on group formation. And, things aren't always perfect in life, and we're never going to get, like separated necessarily in our groups, but you can like kind of mix it up again and get into different groups if it need be. But we've learned a lot about group dynamics this past year. So we will help you with that. But a good round, estimate is 4 to 6 people. It's good because people can have assigned, jobs.
Yeah. And also, so they were asking about making a group me, but it looks like Madeline sent the link to a group me. So whoever wants to join that group me can join that for people who want to become ambassadors this year. Within you guys can just share ideas within your group me and create groups in there if that helps.
But just to know, that's not officially through us.
It's not through us.
She's an individual like you guys who wants to become a mental health ambassador and is doing that.
Yeah, I think in terms of group work, probably the biggest thing is being able to pull your own weight, because it does get kind of challenging as the school year goes on. But when you start to push the work onto somebody else, you have to understand, as a mental health ambassador, that can be stressful, and you're kind of, taking out the purpose of it. So make sure, like, when you're forming the groups, that you guys find people that you can really communicate well with. So.
Yep. Okay, any other questions? Well, I think it's been an amazing first session. I'm super excited to get to see you guys in 2 weeks, and many, many, many thanks to Dr. Stowe